Hi, Miss Dixon here. I'm here to do rounding decimals, which is a lot like rounding whole numbers, except now we have decimals. So we follow the same steps. In step 1, we find the place value to which you want to round. We're locating right now. Where's that place? Step 2, we look at the digit just to the right. So now we care about the value of the digit just to the right of the place value that we want to round to. If that digit is less than 5, how do we do it? We round down. And if it's 5 or more, how do we do it? We round up. And then, after we round down or round up, we rewrite the number with all zeros to the right of the place to which you are rounding. So if we round down, we have the same numbers on the left and then all zeros on the right. And if we round up, then the number that is in the place value that we're rounding to is increased by 1, and then we write zeros to the right of that number. Let's try some examples with decimals. Let's round this number to the place that's named. Here's our first difference with decimals from whole numbers. Now our place values have new names. Remember the indicating that that's after the decimal? The tenths place is that first place. The thousandths place is the third place. Ones place is this 0. So we have the ones place, the tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths. Remember those places? Okay, let's try our first example. Let's rewrite the number and do step 1, locate what place do I want. The tenths place is the first place after the decimal. That's 7. Step 2 says look just to the right and look at that digit. 4 is less than 5, so we round down. When we round down, we write the digits on the left side and including the place value digit the same and all zeros to the right of that. This is the second thing that we're going to notice with a difference between decimals and whole numbers. When we look at decimals and we have a whole bunch of zeros on the right after the decimal point and after the last number, other than 0, remember we can get rid of those zeros and write an equivalent decimal of 7/10. These are equivalent. So my final answer is the shorter one. Let's go on to B, rounding to the thousandths place. Let's rewrite the number again. Where's the thousandths place? Remember, it's tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So that 9 is in the thousandths place. Step 2 says look just to the right, and I see a 6. 6 is more than 5. It's 5 or more, so I'm going to round up. When I round up, the numbers to the left of the place value that I'm rounding to stay the same, but the place value that I am rounding to is increased by 1. So 9 would become 10. But I can't write 10 as one digit. So instead of looking at just that 9, consider the 49 and raise this 49 to 50. So rewrite it 5, 0. And then all the numbers to the right become 0. Remember equivalent decimals again? So how am I going to write this as short as possible? This is equal to 0 and 75 hundredths. So that's my final answer. Now, let's look at C. We want to round that number to the ones place. Where's the ones place? Let's rewrite the number. The ones place is right here. So, am I going to round down or up? Select A for down or B for up. You got it. Since 7 is greater than 5, we're going to round up. So 0 is increased by 1. So we'll write 1, and then all the numbers to the right of the place that we're rounding to are zeros. But since we can write an equivalent decimal without the zeros at the end after the decimal, we can just write 1. And that is the final answer. Let's try another example. This time, instead of having the place value names, let's say round each to the place of the blue digit. So now we have the blue digit telling us what place to round to. In A, we're rounding to the tenths because the blue digit is in the tenths position. That's step 1. Step 2, look just to the right and see a 5 and say, is 5 or greater or less than 5? 5 is 5 or greater, so we round up. So everything to the left stays the same. The place value, the digit in the place value that we want to round to, is increased by 1 because we're rounding up. And then all the numbers to the right of that are zeros. Equivalent decimal, so I can rewrite this. I can cross off these zeros and rewrite it as 30 and 5/10. There's my final answer. Why don't you try B on your own and press continue when you're ready to move on. Okay, let's do it together now. We're rounding to the hundredths position because that's where the 6 is, and the 6 is the blue digit. So we look just to the right. We see a 4. 4 is less than 5, so we round down. When we round down, all the digits to the left, including the place value that we're rounding to, stay the same, and everything to the right becomes zeros. But an equivalent decimal says I don't need that 0, so I can really just write 1 36/100ths. Now let's try an example with a real life stuff, like money. We love money. Round to the nearest tenth of a dollar and to the nearest dollar. Okay, this is a trick question. It's asking for two different things. The nearest tenth of a dollar and to the nearest dollar. So we have to give two different answers. So first, let's look at A. So we want to round to the nearest tenth of a dollar, which is this place right here, the 3. So look to the right of the 3, and I see a 6, which is greater than 5, so we round up. When we round up, we get $4.40. This one, I'm not going to take that last 0 off because now we're talking about money. Money always has 2 places after the decimal, so I leave that 0 there. Now let's go on to B. Oh, wait, I can't go on to B, can I? Because I'm not quite done. All I did was answer the nearest tenth of a dollar. There's the second part of the question asking for the nearest dollar. I almost forgot. Don't forget. The nearest dollar says I want to round to this place right here. So I look right to the right of the 4 and I see a 3. 3 is less than 5, so I round down. And I get $4. Notice how different these numbers can be if I'm rounding to different places. A store would never accept that kind of difference in rounding. That's why stores have exact prices. Okay, now that we've answered both parts of the question, let's move on to B. In B, we want to say, first we want to round to the nearest tenth. Tenth position, that's where the 8 is. Look just to the right of the 8, and there's a 4, which is less than 5, so you round down, which gives us 80 cents. That's our yellow answer. That's the nearest tenth. Not done yet. Now we got to round to the nearest dollar. So we're looking at this place now. Look just to the right, and there's an 8. An 8 says is higher than a 5, so we got to round up. We round up in the dollar position, and we get $1. And that's the second part of the answer. So notice again how different these prices are, considering where we rounded to, what place value. So with decimals, the difference between rounding decimals and rounding whole numbers is 1, you have equivalent decimals. You can take off the end zeros. And 2, when you have dollars, you always have exactly 2 places after the decimal. So remember those 3 steps with rounding, and remember what's different about decimals from whole numbers, and have fun rounding.